everybody, good morning. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd, and so let's see that today is the 40th day of social distancing. So hopefully the other day you had a chance to see the video about the Connect 4 project that we're working on with the other middle schools. So in that project you have a choice of photography, of graphic design, video, and community service. And so for a lot of those different projects, you're probably going to need to be either taking pictures or recording video. I gave you a survey last Friday, and the overwhelming response was that you guys wanted to learn how to take better pictures and videos with your cell phone. So today I'm going to demonstrate a couple of different things. If you're a hair and TV or a photography student, some of this might be review for you, but we haven't really taught it from a cell phone perspective before, so this still might be valuable for you. And that might be the tool that you're using for this project anyway. So to demonstrate the principles I'm going to talk about today, we're going to use a model that you guys will recognize, none other than Mr. Bob Ross. So welcome Mr. Bob Ross to the show, everyone. Yeah, he's hard to get in focus because he's so small, but there he is. I'm going to take pictures of Bob with my cell phone, and I'm going to show you a couple different things. So the biggest thing I like to think about when I'm taking a photo is how can I make it look like there's motion in that photo, even if it's completely still. And so since Bob's going to be completely still here, I'm still going to be able to use a couple techniques that are going to make it work. All right. The other day we also talked about our grid lines. We use grid lines for a variety of reasons, one of which is to keep photos level, but another is to help us with a rule called the rule of thirds. So today I'm going to teach you two main principles of composition in your photography. One is the rule of thirds, and the other is to create depth in your photos. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple different pictures. So let's go put Bob in a couple different locations, and we can see how depth is created and how depth isn't created. So let's do a couple different things. We're gonna try that. Okay. Alright, so this first one is going to be an example that I see happen all the time, is that people put subjects up against walls and completely eliminate all sorts of depth. So Bob is set up over on the wall over there, and I'm going to show you how we lose depth completely in a photo when we do that. So I'm going to bring the camera in a little bit closer. Alright, so here we are with Bob on my fence, and I'm going to show you how what looks like it might be a great shot isn't really going to turn out so well. So I'm going to probably cut over to my cell phone as I edit this together, and you'll see what that looks like. Alright, so first off, hopefully you guys have those grid lines turned on like the other day, and I'm just going to put Bob right in the middle of my frame and take a picture of him, and I'm going to show you how there's not a lot of depth. So I'm going to tap on the screen in order to focus. I'm going to put him right there in the middle. I'm going to take the picture. So not a bad picture, but there's a couple things we can do to improve this. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to show you how we can use the rule of thirds. So all I need to do in order to use those rule of thirds is I'm going to use my grid lines, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Bob, instead of in the center, I'm going to try and have his head intersect on the two lines. So if I just kind of have him right there, now all of a sudden Bob kind of off to the side in the frame, and it adds a little bit more interest. Now, even more so how this works is if he was turned looking this way, it would make more sense to have him looking into the open space on the frame. So let's try that again. Now if I take a picture of Bob with him looking over, slightly offside, and now I have just demonstrated a basic principle of the rule of thirds. So now all of a sudden, even though he's a completely still inanimate object, it looks like there's a little bit of motion because it looks like he's actually looking at something. But in both of these photos, I haven't really created depth, and the reason is he is right next to the wall. So in order to create some depth, what you want to do is put spacing between your subject and their background. So let's find a new location for Bob, create a little bit of depth, and see if it looks a little better. Alright, for this next example, I'm going to be down at Bob's level, and I'm trying to create a background that's interesting, that has a little bit of depth. So some of the blades of grass behind Bob here are going to be fairly close, but the ones that are further away are going to fall off out of focus, and it should look fairly pleasing. So let's see what happens here. We're now going to get Bob here, using that same rule, you can see he's lined up on the grid lines there. I'm going to tap on him to focus. And when I take that picture, should be a little bit more interesting of a photo. That took a ton of photos. I'm not sure what happened. Why am I in some crazy mode? Let's try that again. Let me just go into HDR. Take that picture again. And now you can see that's going to be a more interesting picture of Bob because there's some depth to him. As we look at this photo, you can see there's elements of the background, but they're falling out of focus, and the grass makes for a more pleasing background. So just by thinking about what your background is and creating a little bit of depth from that, you'll make it look far more interesting. Okay, so there you have it. Just two really basic things, right? Add some depth to your photos. Separate that background from your subject. It's going to look a little more interesting. And try framing things using the rule of thirds. So just get your subject right. Instead of being right in the center of the frame like I am here, just step off to the side and have him open to the open part of the frame. Either way, it works really well when you're looking at photos. Applies to videos too. So let me try a couple more shots around the room, around my backyard, just taking pictures of Bob. So you can try the same thing. Set up an action figure. They don't move, which is great. But if you've got really cute pets or they're trained well, that works awesome too. So try different things. We're gonna work on getting some depth in our photos, and we're gonna work on framing using the rule of thirds. So two basic things that you can try. When I'm taking pictures with my phone, I am using what's called the HDR, or high dynamic range. What that does is it actually takes a series of photos and combines them so that you get the best examples of light. When you're using a really small sensor inside a cell phone, you really need that kind of dynamic range to help you with it to make the photo turn out great. If you're using a DSLR, you can think about some other features that we'll get into later. But for now, if you have the HDR option, I would just leave it turned on. You're still going to be able to edit that photo and make adjustments to it, but it gives you the best sort of data to work with to get your photo started. So let's look at a couple shots of Bob around the yard.